Hello, my name is Roy Hadley, and welcome to another edition of Cyber Shorts. I am the chair of the Information Security Society for the Technology Association of Georgia, and my day job is I am on the privacy, data security, and information management team at the law firm of Adams and Reese. Again, welcome to another edition of Cyber Shorts, and today we're going to have just a fantastic conversation. We have two great guests with CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure, don't know why I can't say that, Security Agency within Region 4, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. First up is going to be Dr. Joye Purser, who is the Regional Director for Region 4. And then we also have Klint Walker, who is a Cybersecurity Advisor, also with CISA Region 4. Dr. Purser, Klint, welcome to Cyber Shorts. How are you all doing today?
We're doing very well. How are you, Roy?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. All right, so Dr. Purser, CISA Region 4. Tell me about it. Two things. One, what is Region 4? What states comprise Region 4? And why is it so exciting for CISA to have a presence here in Region 4?
Well, Roy, CISA Region 4 spans the southeastern United States. It includes 8 states that range from Mississippi all the way up to North Carolina, and it includes Kentucky and Florida. And our southeastern region is arguably the busiest and the most active of all the regions in terms of cybersecurity and threats to our critical infrastructure for our nation. So that's a little bit about the region.
Right.
CISA has just created a regional plan in which it is staffing up security advisors in each of the states. There are some who specialize in cyber and others are specialize in physical security, and our regional headquarters are based in Atlanta.
Fantastic. And, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing for Region 4 to be the most active region, especially with respect to critical infrastructure. I know we have a lot of fintech and payment processing going on in the region, particularly here in Georgia. So I'm sure that's top of your list of concerns. Klint, I'm going to pivot to you for 1 second. And, tell us a little bit about what you do. I know you're on the road a lot. It's difficult to catch you in one place. It sounds like you live out of a suitcase. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do for CISA.
Certainly. Thanks for having us on. I am what is called a Cybersecurity Advisor, or CSA for short. Our role is to go out and be that bridge between private sector, public sector, and the federal government in order to be that advisory or that preparedness activity when it comes to cyber. Our job is to make sure that everybody's kind of speaking the same cyber language, to use the right terminology, and then to bring awareness and education out to the masses in order to bring us all to the table to be able to respond and be more resilient to cyber threats and cyber attacks.
Wow, that's a lot. But I think the main thing that people really need to take away from this is just CISA's role, which is really to help you get prepared. I know we recently had the Colonial pipelines incident here in Georgia, which really affected the entire East Coast of the United States. Joy, are you seeing more of those types of attacks coming in the region and in the nation? And if so, kind of what are the big concerns for CISA and for you?
Roy, thanks for the question. Yes, we're seeing ransomware attacks and all manner of cyber attacks increasing, both in terms of the number of them and the intensity, the impacts to them, and the sophistication of the threat actors. A recent MCSoft report just for ransomware found that in 2020, there were 100 plus federal, state, and municipal agencies, 500 or more medical centers, and more than 1,600 educational institutions that were hit by ransomware, and that's just in 2020. So it really is an epidemic, And we can see, unfortunately, we will expect more attacks such as the Colonial pipeline incident. I know in Florida, there was a water treatment facility that was affected. We see medical centers and hospitals affected. Just about every domain of our regional critical infrastructure is vulnerable.
Right, and I think you're right. I mean, the attacks just keep ramping up in both the number, the severity, and the scope of the attacks. So I think everybody knows kind of that things are bad. More and more attacks are going on, but I want to shift our focus here a little bit to talk more about CISA and what CISA brings to the table to help private industry, private enterprise. If you help with local and state governments, which I know have been hit hard, school systems have been hit hard. And so I really want to help people understand what resources CISA has to help you get prepared on the front end. And I don't know, if CISA helps once something happens, but if, Joy, if you could tell us a little bit about those resources, and then Clint, I'm going to follow up with you with same question.
All right, yes. CISA has authorized a cadre of cybersecurity experts in each of the states. We have a cybersecurity coordinator who is tasked with spending part of their time working with private sector. And we have advisors dispersed throughout our region who provide expert counsel to both public sector, such as state governments, emergency operations centers, school districts, and then we also have engagement with the private sector. Oftentimes, not the larger companies, they often have a very resilient posture, although not always, as we've seen, but also the medium-sized and smaller companies that plug in with them. And for the specifics, I can let Clint describe that in more detail.
So yeah, the big thing that we offer, what we really bring to the table is that relationship. And so that's why the cybersecurity advisors and our protective security advisors, and then our cybersecurity coordinators, that's why we're here, is to bring that long-term relationship and to help people understand where they stand. We like to come in and be able to baseline your cybersecurity program as a whole, find out exactly how mature you are and what your next steps are. So we call these our strategic level assessments, where we can come in and help you assess your current state, where you would like to be, and help you build that 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan on all the things that are happening. We help you come in, and then we want to help you to achieve that next level by looking at exercises and looking at workshops. Once again, we want to make sure everybody's using the same terminology, so that when you call me and say, hey, this event is happening, I understand what the word event means to you, and that it means the same thing to everybody that we're bringing in to help you, whether it be another federal agency, state and local government. We like to say we're the cyber 411. You call us, and then we bring everybody else to the table and figure out exactly what you need and how you need it. We really like to work, in cyber preparedness. And that's why we focus a lot on exercises and those workshops, is because we want to make sure that you understand the entire breadth of what happens during a cyber event, everything from your communications internal to your organization, communications outside, whether those be public relation communications or whether it's going to be partner notifications, because we're looking at really those ecosystem attacks, like with what happened with Colonial Pipeline, where one sector gets hit, but it's going to have a ripple effect, or what we call a domino effect, and start to affect every other sector. And how are you prepared when you're not the target, but you're still part of the fallout from the cyber attack? So those business continuity plans, we'd like to exercise both your incident response plan, business continuity, disaster recovery, and your communication action plan. And so we like to bring all of that together, and we like to exercise with you individually, and then you as part of your ecosystem or your surrounding area. So we try and bring all that to the table. And then we are there also in your time of crisis to be that advisor, that person that you lean on to say, hey, I don't understand what's going on. We can help you with malware analysis. We can help you with at least some advice over the phone, or if we need to be on site, or if we can be on site, we try to be there when possible. But more importantly, we're bringing those other partners to bear. Do we need to get the FBI involved, the Secret Service, TSA, whoever else needs to be there, whether it be local law enforcement? We have all those connections and can bring them to bear for you.
Right. And I think there are a couple of things that I want to focus on. One is you said the word relationship, and that's such a critical part of it, because I know when we dealt with the city of Atlanta ransomware attack back in 2018, one of the most important things was having those relationships so that you knew who to call in the federal government and otherwise when something happens, so that they're already familiar with you, they can be on site. Klint, you mentioned a lot of things going on there that CISA brings to the table, especially on the front end in getting entities prepared. And the question that I know people listening to this, people in particularly in the private sector, how much does that cost? What are the costs associated with getting CISA on board, getting CISA to help before something happens in terms of the incident response plan, reviewing it, and those sorts of things? How should you factor that in your budget?
So we're taxpayer funded, so all of our services are already paid for. So there's no upfront cost to anybody.
That's a good answer.
There is a cost, and that cost is your time.
Okay.
And that your time and energy to put in. A lot of the assessments we do are going to take you, 8 hours, or, if you get the full suite of assessments, it can take 3 days of your time. Each workshop we do, each exercise, that's time you're dedicating to getting better. So it's time well spent, believe me, but there is a time and resource, that you have to put into it. But everything that we provide, there's no charge for any of it. We are here to assist. We like to say, I'm from the federal government and I'm here to help. And we don't want to charge for that. We want people to be able to be resilient. We want to teach them how to do that. And we want to help them along that pathway.
Fantastic. Dr. Purser and Klint, between the two of you, how do you, let's say I am a small to mid-sized business. Two questions. One, is any business too small, or what's the sweet spot for CISA? And then two, what's the first step in accessing the resources of CISA? What does a business do? Who do they call? What do they say?
All right, I'll take it first, Roy, and then I'll let Klint fill in the gaps. First of all, is CISA.gov is an excellent website that goes all the way from pretty general all the way to really technical information about cyber resilience. So your network systems administrator or your information security professional at your organization can go there and avail themselves of all of the most recent information on risk and risk to your information networks. So that's already paid for by taxpayer dollars. Klint also, and our other cybersecurity advisors also go out to the community and they can perform assessments. No one's too big or small. It just depends on the venue. So sometimes Klint will give a webinar or a seminar, and there might be a group that participates, and we usually advertise that in advance to our stakeholders and partners. So it really spans the gamut between individualized attention to webinars. But really, Klint can do assessments that have a litany of questions that help you determine where you might need to beef up your resilience and how to prioritize those efforts. Because some of the things that are important for protecting yourself against a cyber attack are very little cost. If you have a small company, you can educate your staff on just basic cyber hygiene, about not clicking on suspicious links. You can back up your information. There are some things that are a matter of just knowledge or understanding that you can do. So Klint, I'll let you take it from there in terms of more details about how we provide taxpayer funded services to our community.
Certainly. So as Dr. Purser said, there's really no size limit, especially on the cyber side. We always like to say that all the industry leaders probably started out at one time as a garage band. Everybody starts small, and you never know who the next Microsoft's going to be, or the next Facebook, or something large like that. And so you got to try and help everybody. And even when you look at it, it's all about supply chain. You never know who the critical widget supplier is going to be to a larger organization. So we try and help everybody, from the largest down to the smallest. Now, sometimes we do have to prioritize based on national level significance or current threats and trends. but we usually get to everybody. I haven't seen any partner that has asked us for help that we haven't been able to help in some shape or form. It's not always boots on the ground kind of help, but we have been able to help everybody. And especially, so when I first started 5 years ago, it was probably a one-man show down here. It was just me trying to cover all 8 states from a cyber perspective, but there's 8 of us now, with 4 more coming on board very soon. So we have that ability now, instead of just responding to every fire, but actually starting to build that proactive nature, reaching out and building those long-lasting relationships, which is a great thing for the community and for Region 4 as a whole, is to start bringing everybody together and not just looking at things individually, but looking at things as an ecosystem and then as a region and how we can all help each other.
Okay, great. Now, Dr. Purser, you said CISA.gov. Is that where somebody would sign up for the webinars that you mentioned also?
Yes, and you can also sign up for email distribution so that you get all the most recent information if there is a cyber attack and how to protect yourself.
And admittedly, I knew the answer to the question before I asked it, because I signed up for your emails and for the webinars and those sorts of things. And I will say they are very helpful, even for someone like me who's been around cybersecurity for a long time. They're very helpful in terms of just reinforcing what you already know or hopefully know, or maybe don't know. But they're also very helpful in forecasting trends and telling what's happening out there in the world. And so with that, I'm going to pivot and ask you both, what are you seeing out there? What should people be concerned about that's coming up? I know we've had ransomware that's been in the news, and that may be still the top threat kind of out there for small to mid-sized businesses, school systems, governments, local governments. But are you seeing anything that people should really raise their antennas, or at least start waving a yellow flag for? And Klint, I'll start with you, and then Dr. Purser, if you could let us know if you see anything out there also.
So I think it's unfortunately it's more of the same. I think business email compromise is actually still #1, with ransomware coming in at a close second. But the shift in combining the two is adding physical, so having people making physical phone calls to back up the ransomware, or moving ransomware into extortionware, where they're starting to not only encrypt your data and keep it hostage, but then also to exfiltrate that data and then say, if you don't pay the ransom, if you're going to restore from backup, then we're going to release your data publicly, and either humiliate you, or maybe look bad to regulators or anybody else that you do business with, is releasing all that data publicly. So I think the shift is that the threat actors are actually using everything to their advantage in order to make you pay them some money, whether it's the full lump sum that they want or it's just a little bit. But they're looking at how you do business, and not just the impact to yourself. As we saw with Colonial Pipeline, it wasn't just, hey, I'm making this business decision by myself. It's the pressure from all your supply chain and everybody else that you're impacting by not being in operation, them pressuring you to make a decision as well, whether it's quickly restore from backup or to pay the ransomware. And once again, I'm going to plug that the federal government, we always say, please don't pay the ransom. I've got to throw that in there, because that's just perpetuating the problem. Make sure that you're prepared, you have those backups ready to go, and you have a good cybersecurity program so you don't have to pay. But the threat actors are doing everything in their power to make their phishing emails look better, to make sure that they're following it up with legitimate, or with phone calls. I'm not going to say legitimate phone calls, but with phone calls or some sort of physical media to make you think that what they're offering you is actually legit. And then they're hitting you and then trying to find multiple ways to make you pay, or to keep paying them over a long period of time.
Thank you. That's great advice. We just had just finished up with a client that had a business email compromise that, to your point, was backed up with phone numbers, and you could call and to verify, and you called and they called. It was very sophisticated, and I think you're starting to see that out there in the marketplace, we'll just say, or the ecosphere. Dr. Purser, thoughts?
Yes, I concur with Klint. An additional concern of mine has to do with industrial control systems. As threat actors internationally become more sophisticated, I am concerned about our nation's physical infrastructure. We're seeing a blurring of the lines between cyber and physical threats. And particular for, our infrastructure such as, dams or ports, or think about the banking and financial center that is in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. Think about fintech in Atlanta. Think about all of the ports that are along the southeastern United States. There are just so many threats that if industrial control systems are breached, then we have some real trouble and some real trickle down impacts that will affect a lot of people, as we saw with the pipeline security. So that's one thing that keeps me up at night, and that I hope that and I've met with some of the folks who help support those industrial control systems, that they are diligent in their cyber posture, and CISA serves as a close partner and ally in order to assist them in bolstering their cyber resilience.
Fantastic. So we're getting close to the end here. We call these cyber shorts, and we try to keep them short and useful for people. So, you both have just given a ton of useful information. In a second, I'm going to ask you each for one last parting thought, one last nugget of wisdom. But before I do that, I am going to once again tell everybody that's listening to this, the place to go, CISA, CISA.gov, and you'll just find a plethora of resources for you in terms of preparedness, information, useful information, webinars, seminars, numbers to contact CISA, all of those sorts of things are there at CISA.gov. And so I urge you to go. And again, despite the fact that I've been in the cybersecurity arena for, many years, I'm not going to call out the number, but many years, let's just say, every time I participate in a CISA webinar or seminar, I learn a lot of useful information. So again, CISA.gov is the place to be. So now that I've given you time to think about it, Klint, I'll let you give your one last nugget of wisdom, and then Dr. Purser, I'll let you close us out.
I always like to tell people, if you only take one thing away from when I say or when I speak, it's please exercise. Whether you're exercising independently, or whether you're exercising with your business partners or your ecosystem or your local community, your county, your state, you have to exercise, because no matter how prepared you think that you are, the threat actors are evolving so that they're always hitting you with something you didn't plan for. And the threats are changing on a day-to-day basis. So please exercise. We would love it if you could invite us to come out and exercise with you. But by all means, exercise, and make sure that you are aware of current threats and trends so that your exercises are happening to what is really going on out there.
And when you say exercise, you're talking tabletops, things like that, not cardio.
Tabletop exercise, live fire exercise, they can be blended security, physical security and cybersecurity, straight cybersecurity, however you want to work it. As long as you're exercising, it should include your legal department, it should include your communications department, it should include HR, it should include everybody who's actually going to respond to the event. And there's so many different ways to do that, and there's so much to learn from that by exercising. That's really how you prepare. You wouldn't send a football team out to play a game on Sunday if they hadn't practiced. And so if you're not practicing, you're not ready for the game on Sunday. And let me tell you, the game on Sunday is coming.
Absolutely. Great words of wisdom. Dr. Purser, close us out.
Thanks again for inviting us today, Roy. CISA is a strong partner for you all. And, my advice is to just have as strong a cyber hygiene as you can. Use strong passwords. Teach your staff to be diligent about suspicious emails. Use multi-factor authentication. Back up your system so that you have a strong and recent backup. And of course, patch your software regularly. That would be my advice.
Right. I think that is fantastic advice. So again, Dr. Joye Purser, Klint Walker, both with Region 4 of CISA, thank you so much for taking time today and joining us and really passing on a lot of useful information and really highlighting the resources CISA is. And as you both said, it's taxpayer funded. It's just a matter of investing your time and effort into it. The resources are free, they're there, the threats are there, and will continue and will evolve. So with that, again, both of you, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us here on Cyber Shorts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.